We have entered a new era in hockey. This is something that we have never seen before. If you ask anybody from decades before, okay, what's different about hockey? They will all tell you one universal thing, and it is that there is so much more skill in the game now. Everybody is skilled. The weakest players in the NHL are still very, very talented. And this is because they have to be. You don't have a choice anymore. You can't get by just simply having mediocre skill and a couple other assets. Skill is the new baseline. And the reason this has come about is because of technology. And that is why I call it the tech era. We have entered the tech era. And if you don't want to get left behind, there is something you must do. There is something you must establish. There is something about your game that you have to be clear on. Because if you don't, you will be left behind. You will have other players rise above you in levels and skill, and they will find success where you believe you should be. And I don't want that to happen to you. If you're taking the time to listen to a video like this or a podcast like this, there's a reason why you're here. So I want to break this completely down for you. And to start, I want to first explain what the old era was. And really what this is the era before the internet. Pretty much we all were kind of stuck doing the same thing. At least I kind of grew up in the era where you had access to the internet, but now we have access to almost like infinite videos. When I was a lot younger, there wasn't as much access to basically like infinite like skill videos, coaching online, like IQ videos. There wasn't like infinite games that you could watch. Now you have all of these different things you can watch, but before you could do that, people were stuck really with the limited information of whatever their team was going through, so whatever their coach was teaching, whatever your skills coaches were doing, whatever the league you had was doing, and pretty much like the players like on your team and in your league. It's like that was your bubble of information. And you didn't really know what it was like outside of that unless you went to like a hockey tournament and you would see, okay, these guys are playing like this guy is this style, this is a different skill, and there would be these like new standards that could get established. And I remember this experience. But now players are starting to be able to watch all different levels, be able to watch online highlights and learn and iterate. They're able to actually see all these different things, and you can just go and say, okay, like I want to learn how to do the Michigan, and you can find 50 different people teaching you how to do the Michigan on various different social media networks, and if you like Google it online. So there's all these people teaching all these techniques, and there's this new creative wave coming out that is a result of this tech era, that is a part of this tech era. And people before this, they would do some power skating or maybe a little bit of skills work, like maybe. Then you'd watch some NHL games like live whenever you could. So usually it was like Saturday night. Hockey night in Canada was like the main thing. So we'd watch that whenever possible, and then stick handle and shoot at home. And then you'd hope you get noticed by scouts. Like you'd hope you get better and you'd learn from your coaches, you'd learn from people around you. You'd hope that's enough. But this existed because players had no choice. But that's not the way it's going to be. That's not the way it is now. It's definitely not the way it's going to be. And like everything in life, things evolve, things change. And hockey has evolved into a extremely skilled game where it's non-negotiable to have high levels of talent, and it is a beautiful thing to see. I love it. Now, here's the thing. It's not enough to just simply be a relatively skilled player. You must possess a high level of skill. And I'm going to get into a little bit more detail with this. I want to explain something that is extremely important. So I want to make sure you keep listening, because there's a lot I want to break down here that's going to allow you to not just take this general advice I'm giving you, because what I'm saying now is what everybody knows, like the game is more skilled, but the way that I'm going to explain to you how to not get left behind, and not only not get left behind, but how to elevate above everybody and get to a higher level than other players, there is something that you need to do that the elite guys are doing, whether they even realize it or not, and there's something that the elite coaches are teaching, and that I'm teaching to my guys, that is creating a huge separation and allowing players to keep finding that next level. So again, here's what's happening in the tech era, in the current modern era. People watch NHL games live and recorded. They watch short hockey videos on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. They learn from online courses, so they actually get like structured, detailed training systems. A lot of this is what players are doing now, and I know this is what I started to do as I got into junior. I wish I had more access to this stuff earlier. Then I would learn new skills, or players will learn new skills. They'll try out different techniques and skills on the ice, or they'll do it off ice to start. Then they'll go skate on their own. They'll try it out. They'll try new moves and techniques. And obviously, if you have like a pond, this is like Gretzky used to do this in the past, and all players seem to be doing this now, is you go do it at like a stick and puck. You go experiment off ice on your rollerblades or your Mars blades, and then you work with a skills coach, a mental coach, a strength coach, a development coach, and you become a much better player. You just keep getting better, you keep learning, you keep growing. You get scouted through online resources like Hockey TV and Elite Prospects, allow any player to be seen, and you get to the next level. And the thing is that's all stuff that is accessible to pretty much every player. Even if you're limited financially, you can still get the stick and pucks, you can still get some cheap rollerblades, you can get a green biscuit, you can figure out like set up a net or shoot against the fence. There's like places you can go, there's things you can do. So the thing is, there's no actual excuse to not be doing these things. So that's why it's so important to realize, like, look, the technology era has opened up an opportunity for players who have that drive. It opened an opportunity for players who know, hey, I really do want to become an elite player. I want to become a world-class talent in the hockey world. You now have the ability to go access that information because you can go watch all of the elite players in the world. You can literally watch any of the best hockey players from pretty much the whole planet now, and you can watch like KHL, you can watch like the DEL in Germany, you can go watch all these different leagues, right? So there's no longer an excuse to not have it, except for the fact that people don't know how to approach this. People with the new technology are getting addicted and distracted. They're getting pulled into and sucked into the wrong things. You're watching just stupid, like unnecessary breakdowns of things that don't help you. You're watching like whatever it is, videos of girls, whether it's videos of talking about some stupid conspiracy theory or whatever it is, but it's pulling people out of what you can actually control. Like as a hockey player, it's dragging you and your attention. The one thing that you really have is your attention and the energy you put into something, and it's being pulled away into other things. So if you want to actually gain the positive from it, what you have to realize is, look, you have unlimited access to high quality information, but what you might be doing is doing what has kind of become like a new kind of like cliche thing lately, which is you look at the best player that you can find, or your favorite player is a lot of the time the case, and players make this huge mistake of thinking, well, I'm just going to be that player. Like, I'm going to be just like McDavid. I'm going to be just like Mitch Marner. I'm going to be just like Sidney Crosby. I'm going to be just like Trevor Zegras, right? And that's great if you happen to have all of the same abilities, like naturally. So you're naturally, let's say like McDavid, you're extremely fast, you're kind of lanky, you're very talented naturally in terms of like hand-eye coordination, and your movement and your mechanics are very dialed in. If that is what you already have, then it's great. Say, okay, that's a great player to model off of because I align with all these things. But the mistake players make is they pick someone who doesn't have any physical attributes, they don't share any kind of core similarities, and then they try to replicate their game off of that player. And if you try this, or if you have tried this, you will find that this is massively holding back your game, because you're trying to work on something that doesn't actually align with who you would best be suited to play like, or not even just comparing yourself to other players, but just what your best style of game is. You're taking away from what your best style of game is because you are thinking, I need to be like someone else. So this is the problem with copying. Everybody is, if you're reading the blog, there's like a Spider-Man meme, which a lot of people have seen. He's like, everybody, they're all pointing at each other because they're all the same. So what happens is that you have a bunch of players who are all trying to play it the same way. Everybody's trying to be like a super fast, hold the puck all the time. make like just be a shoot first player nonstop, which none of those things are wrong inherently. But what I think a lot of people make the mistake of is they look at the wrong players, because they look at somebody, let's say you're 5'6", like you're a shorter player, and now you look at a 6'5" player. The problem I see is that players will look at somebody who is totally different than them and try to model their like skill set off of them, their decision making patterns off of them, and they'll do these things. And the problem is you go on the ice, if you try something that a player who is 50 pounds heavier and a foot taller, if you try those same things, you are taking a huge risk of getting hurt. You're taking a huge risk of just losing the puck and making mistakes all the time, because you don't have the same attributes and the same tools to work with. So the problem most people have is that they take that and they say, like, they'll take this advice, they'll end the video here and say, oh yeah, well, I guess I'm just doomed. And that is giving your power away to something you don't need to. The key is to take responsibility and say, you know what, the reason you're not where you want to be is because you just haven't been taking the right approach for you. You haven't been taking the approach that you need to take to get to where you want to go. It's not because the world is unfair or whatever it is. It's just because right now you just don't have the right information. So let me explain to you what you can do. You don't want to be, and let me explain maybe what you don't want to do so you can understand what to do, is you don't want to be the person who's you're not trying to out McDavid. And there's this Einstein quote that basically says, like, I'll actually pull it up. Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. So what that actually means is that hockey players will say, okay, well, I'm going to try to basically like out climb you're a fish and you're trying to out climb a monkey up a tree, or you're an elephant and you're trying to outswim a goldfish, right? You're a slower, like, let's say slower and more like strong player, like more suited for battling and more suited for being able to control the puck and dominate as like a possession player. And you're trying to play like Trevor Zegras or McDavid or somebody who is very different than your style of play that would be best suited for you. So you're trying to basically, like, you're an elephant trying to outswim the fish, and you're saying, okay, well, why am I struggling? I guess I just suck. And it's like, well, it's because you're not leveraging the tools you actually have. So here is the solution to this. The solution is to understand what your player identity is. So the key with this is you don't want to copy people. You want to steal tools from people that have similar attributes to you and look and see, how can I learn from them? You want to have a unique style that stands out and makes you different from other people. If you can take these things from other people and you can say, okay, I like the way that this player who is, let's say, for example, you're a shorter guy, so you look at Braden Point and you look and say, okay, well, I really like the way that he creates deception on zone entries. He likes to be very shifty and he likes to fake a lot of cutbacks and then drive in and look to get to the net or look to drive behind the net. So you look at those things, you say, okay, cool, I can do that because I'm well suited for that. But you wouldn't want to look at somebody like Tage Thompson, for example. I think I'm saying his name right. Might be screwing that up. But you don't want to look at somebody who's like a monster player and say, oh, I'm going to do all the same things he does and try to replicate it, because it just doesn't make any sense. Instead, you're trying to copy instead of just steal what works. And this is like a Picasso saying. It's like great artists actually just like steal what works from people and just add it to their own identity for hockey players. So what you want to think is, like, your identity is really a collection of small habits. So it's small little things, which are really just habits, are basically just like how you react to situations. So if you have habits in terms of how you think, how you feel, and how you act, these are happening on a subconscious level. They're really like your brain's software. If you think about like a computer, it runs like a software. So for example, you have like Google Chrome or something. It's like something you install. These are things you've installed. Now you can learn to change these, that you can change your mental software or change these things that are going on in your head, these habitual small habits, by slowly tweaking them, by bringing awareness to them. So that's the simplified version. in the Next Level Accelerator program or in the Next Level Academy, we actually have like a whole system for this. And there's a whole 8-week progression that I take players through. But what you want to understand is that the first key thing is you want to actually become aware that if you can start to make small little shifts in your habits, you're starting to change your identity. Because ultimately, again, your identity is just a collection of all the habitual feelings, thoughts, and actions you have. Who you think you are as a player, your confidence as a player, is dictated by the habitual ways you think, feel, and act. Especially the way you think and feel, but ultimately like your actions, and your actions connect to that, because obviously if you think and feel a certain way, but your actions don't align, you're going to feel terrible because your confidence is not going to be reinforced because you keep seeing yourself fail. But what you can learn to do is you can learn to visualize, you can learn to meditate, you can learn to do these things to actually train these habits. Now, you also bring awareness by setting intentions before every training session, by reflecting and figuring out what you need to improve, and then setting intentions again on, okay, I'm going to improve those next time. It's about doing research and figuring out what you need to know in order to get better. But the thing is that you have to actually develop the belief that you can do it. And that's the point of these longer videos. Is my goal is to give you the belief system and understand like this is doable. You actually can handle this, but it has to start with changing your habits. So now, many players are going to leave this letter. They're going to say, you know what? I'm just going to go copy somebody. I just want to be like McDavid. I don't care. And those players are going to end up a weaker version of that player. They'll be like a watered down McDavid, which, maybe might be good enough, but odds are it's not going to lead you to reach your potential. And in one of the past blogs, I talk about potential over professional. You want to set the goal to be to reach your highest potential, not necessarily worry about if you play pro or whatever it is. That's a great general motivation, but I think the key is if you say, you know what, my mindset is now I want to find my potential, see how great I can be. The pressure is removed because now it's just a long-term game, and it's a patience game, and it's a keep walking up the mountain type thing, as opposed to it's like saying I'm going to climb Everest and just saying, well, I'm just going to go as far as I possibly can, and that hopefully is the top. But instead, people are like, I have to get to the top. They feel like a failure the whole time because they're like, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Instead, it's like, I know I'm going to go as far as I possibly can go. So that's like a mindset hack that you can apply really easily. So now, here's the key. So you want to make sure that you realize you can't just say, okay, I'm McDavid now, I'm Matt Barzell now. You can't just install these mechanics instantly into your body and it just happens like that. Even if you do, it's not going to probably be optimal for your body. So you want to figure out what the specific mechanics are, the tools that you need, the decision-making processes you need to be the player that is going to allow you to be the best based on your assets that you have. Don't try to be, a mathematician when naturally you hate math, you're not good at it. Instead, focus on, okay, well, I'm really good at writing interesting ads for companies or something. And it's like, cool, well, you could pursue that thing that you suck at, like math, and just keep doing that. Or you could just say, well, I'm already good at writing these persuasive things, so just focus on that. And in hockey, it's the same thing. It's like if you're already great at being a great penalty killer, or you're great at being a great defensive player, or great at goal scoring, or whatever it is, don't try to force a whole new identity on yourself. Look at what you currently have, what your current identity has become, and then say, how do I want to shift this? How do I want to make these adjustments and just progress forward with the assets I have? Instead of trying to change the assets, you say, how do I work with the assets to become the player that I know I can be? So really what I want you to do coming out of this is to remember to double down on the assets that you do have. I want you to say, okay, I want to have this philosophy. It's not about your coach forcing you to do something and you getting stuck in a fourth line role and you have to accept that new identity. It's about saying this summer, and again, if you're watching this in the summer or listening to this in the summer, I want you to realize if you don't establish your identity, your coach or someone else will establish it for you. So you need to establish, how do I want to play, who do I want to be, and develop the skill set and the mental tools to do that, so that you don't get forced into something that you don't want to be in. And that's the key with this off season. So instead, double down on what you know you can do, continue to stack the skills in the way that you need to stack them, and keep evolving, because you need to seek the knowledge that's going to allow you to evolve. And if you just say, okay, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it, and then you kind of give up before you even try, it's going to hold you back. But instead, you want to start off with, okay, here's what I've got. Now I want to expand on this, and I want to reach my potential and not worry about if I make it to the professional leagues. Just focus on potential, and the professional will come. And again, your mental game is probably the thing that's stopping you. I just want to be real with you. Because what happens is, for players, is that oftentimes the tools are out there. Like I've said multiple times in this video. Oftentimes the tools are there, you can use them, but you're not using them. And that's the thing to get to the bottom of. Why are you willing to spend $500 on a hockey stick, but you're not willing to spend $500 to work with a skills coach, or $500 to work with a mental coach to develop your confidence? Why are you not willing to invest in, let's say, a shooting coach to improve your shot? Why are you not willing to invest in buying 20 green biscuits so you can go shoot every day, or whatever, pucks, or buy a net, buy mesh behind the net so you can shoot more often and you don't risk hitting anything? Why are you not investing in that stuff? That's mental. That's a belief system that you've developed that's holding you back. So a lot of times what's stopping you and what's holding you back throughout all this stuff is that, number one, the overall approach you're taking to this modern era is off because you're trying to copy someone. And then you've developed beliefs that you can't get to where you want to go. You've developed beliefs that you're stuck the way you are. And the problem, the reason you're there is simply because you've been basically doing something that's ineffective. I don't want to say wrong, but you've been doing something that's not effective. It's not helpful. It's not going to push you forward. So if you want to find the next level for yourself, if you want to figure out how great you can be, you want to do one core thing. You want to challenge yourself to build your unique identity. And then on top of that, you want to ask yourself, well, I know how I can keep expanding my identity. And this is a quote from Daryl Belfer. You want to know your role, expand your identity. You want to first of all know, okay, like, here's my abilities and here's how I'm doubling down on my assets. And then when you do come into a team and you realize, okay, this is what this team needs. So I have a great shot. I'm really good at creating good, consistent offense, and I am good at possessing the puck. And your team needs a guy who can possess the puck. And then you say, well, I don't want to just do that. Well, instead what you can do is say, well, if my role is going to be a guy who possesses the puck, master that. Start to, as the season comes into play, and as you start to realize that's where the role is going to fit, now start to shape and mold your identity a little bit. You don't reduce your preparation. You don't say, well, now I'm not going to prepare anything else. But you keep preparing yourself. You keep slowly nudging the ball forward in all areas that you want to work on, and especially doubling down on your assets. But then you want to say, okay, well, now I realize this is what our team needs. So I'm going to just evolve here and master this thing, and then start to slowly show the other tools. Start to slowly show, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And that's what allows you to build trust with your coach. I talk about this in one of the previous blogs about building value, and the ice time formula is, if your coach can trust you to provide something, they put you on the ice more, and then you can build upon that. But the problem is, you don't want to just force yourself like a square peg into a round hole and then not get any ice time, and now you're stuck, not really with any opportunity to prove yourself. So that is the key. That is the master key to all of this stuff, is knowing who you are as a player, building your unique identity, and this will allow you to succeed in the modern era so you don't get left behind. Take advantage of the tech era, and I want you to use this assignment. So I want to give you one last thing, the identity study. This is a hockey assignment for you to get yourself to the next level, and basically this is designed to be done as basically can be done in a day, it can be done in a week. And then in the academy and in the accelerator program, we actually did this over the course of June of 2023. So whenever you're watching this, you'll understand what I mean. But what you want to realize is that this idea of building your unique identity requires you to study. So that's why we want to do identity studies. It's about going and looking at what we can do and what we can like steal from other players and what we can stack into our game. So I'm going to take you through the steps here. And I want to first tell you, if you send this to corson_searles@yahoo.ca, so send that to my email, I will give you a $100 credit so that you can basically apply that to any of my programs. So I'll explain to you, if you do send it to me, what programs you can apply this to, what spots I have available, but you'll get a free $100 if you do this. So there's some incentive for you to actually go and do this. Now here's what it is. So step one, I want you to look at 5 players in the NHL that are like you in terms of body type and skill set. Now number 2, I want you to study for 30 minutes each player, so this is about 2.5 hours. I want you to study each player and understand, okay, number 1, so this is step 3 now. So step 2 is study them for 30 minutes. And then step 3 is take note of these core things. Take note of what is their unique skill stack, so the top 3 to 5 skills they have. What is their bottlenecks, so their top 3 to 5 weakest skills that they have. What are their main plays that they make often, so pick their kind of top 10 to 15 plays that they're always making. Clip those, so save them as like a video, save them however you want, but clip those up, save them in a Google document, and have like links posted in that Google document. Just here's all the clips, and it'll be easy because this keeps it all in a tracked system. And then ask yourself, based on all these clips, based on this like asset that you've just built, ask yourself what skills and plays you want to steal from each of these players. Think about it. Think about, based on all this research you've just done, what can you take from them and apply into your unique identity to keep building your skill stack? That is 2.5 hours of work that will make you a significantly better hockey player with better hockey IQ. You'll make better decisions on the ice. You will ultimately end up being more skilled because you can steal a lot of the skill stacks from them. And you'll just become a better player overall. It's a perfect trade. And plus you're going to get paid $100 for it, right? You can apply that $100 to anything that we have, and you can use this with, anything you want. You're going to get better. So it's really a no-brainer. So I want you to have fun with this. And again, just to plug the actual programs that I do have, if you're looking for a group of players with the same drive as you, who are committed, who are all in, you're looking to dial in your mental game, you know that the way that you're going to get to the next level is by becoming focused, confident, improving your IQ, improving your skill development system, and making sure everything that you're doing aligns perfectly, making sure you have a proper cardio system, breath system, making sure you have a proper lifting system, make sure you have a proper skill system for shooting, stick handling, skating, passing, battling, defending, making sure you have a plan for every part, mind, body, skill. If you feel like that is what you need, then you should definitely look at the Next Level Accelerator. So the link will be on CorsonSearles.com, but you can also just check it out. It should be like right below whatever you're watching or listening to this on. I really hope you got a ton from this. I can't wait to see you guys either in one of those programs or on one of the next things coming up. Also keep in mind, if you fill the form out on the main page of CorsonSearles.com, you'll also see it says apply now. You can apply and find out about some of the exclusive paid programs and the exclusive free programs that we also have. So we have some things called the Next Level Sprints that you'll soon find out about. It may start being open to more players, but you got to apply to that because we're not going to do this with just anybody. We want it to be players we know we can help, who are committed, who are great players, who want to get better. So hope you guys use that. Use the resources, the free resources on the site. We have the free identity training, which is a mental training and an introduction to everything that I'm doing here. So go check that out on the main page. And there's also like a training tracker. There's also an off-season planner that you can design your whole off-season plan, and it's going to help you do that, and a bunch of other stuff. So go check it out, and hope you guys have a great week.